Good morning, guys. Welcome to school. So today we're going to be talking about the product rule, which is basically the derivative of two functions that are being multiplied. Before I start, though, I just want to take the 30 seconds just to thank you for watching these videos and for keeping up with this material through this online means. I know it's difficult to be learning this sort of material on your own, especially if you're a high school student. This is more of a college work concept, but still, I want to congratulate you for getting this far, and let's get started. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're taking the derivative of two functions that are being multiplied, and the rule is stated right here. Let me erase that really quickly and just highlight it because we're gonna be taking it in parts. So this is the first part of the product rule, which is the prime of f of x times g of x, and the second part of the product rule is going to be this one right here. So in the other half, you take f of x and then you just multiply it by g prime. Now, I will post a separate video on why this rule is true, basically proving it. But for now, we'll take it as just granted, okay? So we're going to go ahead and move on and start with some examples, okay? All right, so I'm going to do the first part, which is basically highlighted, okay? So in this part right here, we have two functions which are dependent on v. Okay, so I'm going to write the function again. Let's say this is an h of x equals, so h of v, and it's going to be v squared, okay, that's one. And then the other one is 2 square root of v plus 1. Okay, and we can think of h of v as two functions that are being multiplied. In this case, we're going to say that it's f of v and g of v. Okay, and we want to find h prime of v. Okay, so we don't know what that is, but we do know the product rule. Okay, and so we know that h prime of v is going to be f prime of v times g of v plus f of v g prime of v. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is, okay, say f of v is going to be v squared, okay, and g of v is going to be 2 square root of v plus 1, okay. Now, in order to find the derivatives, you're going to have to use either the formal definition or the derivative rules. We are at a stage where we are now going to be just using the derivative rules, okay. So f prime of v is going to be 2v, okay, and g prime of v is going to be 2 times 1/2 v to the negative 1/2, and then the derivative of a constant is 0, so that's about it. So let me rewrite g prime of v as v to the negative 1/2, because 2 times 1/2 is just 1. All right, so now that we know our f of v, our f prime of v, our g of v, and g prime of v, we're just going to write it into our product rule. Okay, so think of it like it's almost like you're cooking something and you're just basically prepping everything, and then at the very end you're just like throwing it all in the pan. Okay, so let's use the same color we were using. H prime of v is going to be, what's my f prime? It is 2v. What's my g of v? It's the same one, so it's 2 square root of v plus 1, okay, plus my f of v, which was v squared. G prime was going to be v to the negative 1/2, okay. And so you can just leave it like that. There's no need to simplify. Some people would want you to, carry out the distributive property and just rewrite it. but I think that that is enough. The product rule is mainly used in more of like a physics applied context, but for now we're just learning the skill. It's just a mathematics course, so we're just going to go ahead and move on, okay? But know that this is a concept that it's used in physics a lot, in engineering, equations, taking derivatives, all that. So let's get to the next example. Here we have, instead of a function depending on b, we have a function h of x depending, of course, on x. So that's x squared e to the x. Okay, and we can think of h of x as the product of two functions f of x times g of x. Okay, and so we want to find h prime of x. Okay, which we don't know, but we do know the product rule. So h prime of x is going to be f prime of x times g of x plus this is f of x and g prime of x. Okay, you just have to commit it to memory. That's kind of one of the fun things about the product rule, that you just have to remember it. Okay, so let's break this into parts. The first part we know is that f of x here, we're going to take as x squared, and g of x, we're going to take as e to the x. So f prime is going to be 2x, and g prime of x is going to be e to the x. Now, e to the x is a special function whose derivative is the same. And if you want proof of that, you can re-watch one of the videos that I posted earlier in this sequence of topics. But so now that we know f of x, f prime, g of x, and g prime, we can just throw it in the pan and just put it in our follow the recipe, right? So h prime is going to be 2x, because that is f prime, and then e to the x plus x squared, and then g prime of x was going to be the same thing. Okay, so that's it. That is going to be our answer, which we're going to highlight right here. Let me go back and highlight my other answer too, just to make things neat. Okay. Alright, let us do two more examples, which may or may not be in your Google Classroom assignment. So for this next part, tune into, I guess, the other video.